Mist drifts low over Arlington like breath you can see, clinging to white headstones in patient rows. The sun is barely a coin behind the trees, but the marble already remembers light. Boots answer the morning with measured thunder. 21 steps hammered into stone, a pulse the ground can feel. Boots striking stone. Flags talk in the cool air, sharp syllables that make the mist shiver. Flags snapping. The smell is autumn leaves and damp grass, and the faint, honest thread of gun oil that lives in clean steel. Staff Sergeant Daniel Cross, 6'2" of silence and geometry, turns on the black mat, rifle snapping. The rifle gleams, a thin river of dawn running down the barrel until the bayonet throws a white spark against the face of the tomb. He does not look left or right. The velvet rope waits at the edge of the plaza, its rough braid catching the dew. He passes it in ritual orbit, the world held together by cadence and seconds in breath you control because someone else can't. On the 17th step, something changes. A tone, a whisper of hollow where there should be weight. The heel lands and the echo comes back wrong. Not wrong enough for tourists, but wrong enough for a man who has taught stone how to count. Cross halts. The stop is quiet as judgment. Boots settling. Mist flows around his calves. He pivots, bringing the tomb fully into his chest like a prayer you shoulder rather than speak. He breathes the cool Virginia air and lets it steady the metronome in his ribs. Then he moves, one pace off the line, the kind of deviation that would read as geometry if anyone else were watching. Gloved fingers find the seam where marble meets base. Polished stone is cool under leather. Water beads there, trembling. The tomb's face is familiar enough to recognize the smallest trespass. And there it is. Not a crack you can see, but a hairline that feels like a cut under cloth. Cross slides a fingertip along the cold and feels it. The faintest feather of a rough edge hidden inside the seam. Paper. He doesn't react. The discipline has been welded too long to bend in daylight. He glances once into the misted rows, to the slope where white stands shoulder to shoulder beyond sight. No one. A crow argues with distance. The flags snap like orders. Flags snapping harder. He turns his body to hide the motion from the approach that never comes and eases his hand into the seam. The edge of the thing inside is dry, rough as a scab. It tears at the glove. He presses gently, working it free with the patience that separates men who stand from men who run. A corner yields, yellowed and thin as onion skin. The marble grates once, the smallest stone quiet sound. Stone whispering, Cross draws out a folded slip of parchment no larger than his palm. It is old in a way that makes your hands move softer without thinking. Damp mist freckles the surface, and the ink there smells faintly of iron and time. He cups it in his glove, hides it behind the plane. Of his thigh, breathes in the paste and oil scent of his rifle to drown the paper's ghost. 21 seconds pass. He resumes. Boots striking stone, heel to toe. Turn, rifle snapping. The note burns through the wool of his pocket like a hot coin. The plaza listens to itself breathe again. Cross's face is blank as precision, but the metronome that lives in his chest has picked up a second pulse. He finishes the lane and takes relief the way the ritual allows. Calculated, exact, a hinge closing. Private First Class Aaron Miller waits beyond the rope, straight as new steel, eyes bright and anxious. The rough velvet braid leaves a mark across the young man's fingers where he grips it too hard. Cross steps off the mat and the rookie inhales like he's been underwater. "Everything secure, Sergeant?" Aaron asks, voice low, throat tight. "Hold the line," Cross says. 2 words, enough. He gives the trainee an inch of his gaze, the kind that weighs and sharpens. And the boy straightens until the rope creaks in his hand. Rope creaking, Cross walks on, cadence buried in muscle. The note a heartbeat he didn't ask for. Around the corner of the arch, the world goes smaller. Mist thins to a gray lace. The marble wall cools through the wool. He stands where the cameras cannot see and where the tomb is still a presence you can feel through stone. He draws the note and studies the fold. Old paper wants to break simply because it's tired of being held together. He moves with care you'd use to lift a name from a grave. The handwriting shown on the outside isn't handwriting at all. It's a smear, water, years, maybe tears once. The corners are abraded into soft crescents by time. The smell when he unfolds it is old paper, old rooms, a library that surrendered some of itself to a pocket of stone. He opens it halfway. A line appears in shaky ink. He stops, breath checked, body going statue because suddenly everything seems loud. The flags, the birds, even his blood. Pulse in ears faint. He closes it enough to own himself again, opens it fully. 3 words sit in the middle of the page, written as if the hand that put them there had to make every letter reach for air. Ink bleeds slightly at the strokes, where a pen paused and pressed harder, as if courage were something you could push out of a nib. I am not unknown. The words hit with the weight of a bell dropped into a still lake. Rings shoot out, through memory, through honor, through a vow made to guard the nameless by never letting a name matter again. Cross's jaw tightens under the skin. Discipline says fold it, pocket it, walk. Duty says report. Something older, the thing that made him stand here after storms and heat and nights where the world emptied into this little square of light, says listen. Boots scrape softly beyond the arch. Soft tread approaching. A figure's shadow touches the corner of the wall. Broad shoulders, cap. The silhouette of a commander who believes the ritual holds the country together because he has spent his life stitching it. Cross lifts his eyes to the light on the marble, to the mist thinning above the white rose, to the rifle that smells like oil and oath. He folds the note with hands that do not shake, just slower, like reverence rewriting habit. The paper clicks once as old crease finds old crease. Paper clicking shut. He tucks it clean, turns the corners down, slides it into a pocket where the heart wants to be, and steps back toward the mat with a face that gives nothing away. The legendary moment fixes itself in the brightening air. A sentinel kneeling at the base of the tomb, mist swirling around his boots, bayonet catching first sun, gloved hand lifting a yellowed secret from a seam of stone as if plucking a whisper out of marble. The footsteps stop just out of sight. A voice that knows commands but also cares about the men who bear them says steady and unblinking, "Sergeant." Cross does not look away from the tomb. "Sir, anything to report?" Silence is heavier than truth. He lets it hang for a single, lawful breath. The watch is secure. He re-enters the cadence, the rifle finding its line with a snap that writes the morning across stone. Rifle snapping, boots resuming. The note beats once against his chest like a second heart, and as he walks, the 3 words keep walking with him, louder than the flags, louder than the wind, carving a crack through certainty that nothing can mend in one shift. I am not unknown. The sun climbs higher, burning off the mist, but the weight in Staff Sergeant Daniel Cross's chest doesn't lift, flags snapping harder. The crowd thickens at Arlington as midday approaches. School children in rows, families in black, veterans standing as straight as their backs allow. But to Cross, they blur. His focus is narrowed to a parchment folded 4 times and hidden in his breast pocket, warming now with his breath and nerves. Every step he takes across the plaza is perfect. 21 paces, heel to toe, turn, boots striking stone pivot, rifle snapping, rifle to shoulder, eyes forward. The bayonet gleams like a quiet warning, but his thoughts are louder than any steel. I am not unknown. 3 words, handwritten in old ink, sitting like a wedge between duty and doubt. Private First Class Aaron Miller stands just beyond the rope, watching with the wide eyes of reverence and hunger. He's trying to read the ritual with his bones, to feel it enough to someday own it. He doesn't see the storm boiling beneath the surface of the guard's precision. Cross halts. Boots click. The crowd hushes. Somewhere near the back, a boy coughs, then stops as if afraid to interrupt. Murmur fading. His eyes flicker toward the plaza's edge, where Colonel Mason stands under shadow, arms crossed, face locked in stone. Mason is everything tradition demands, square-jawed, gray at the temples, with a stare sharp enough to straighten any spine. He's been watching Cross longer than Cross has been guarding the tomb, and he knows. Not everything, but enough. The note was not supposed to be found. not in his command. Later, inside the guard quarters, Cross steps from the ritual and into the quiet sanctuary behind the arches. It smells of brass polish and gun oil, of boot leather and old stone that remembers everything. Door softly closing. He pulls off his white gloves with precision, but lingers a second too long before sliding them into the tray. Report, Mason says, emerging from the shadows like a sentence already passed. Cross straightens. Plaza held. No infractions. Cadence unbroken. And the anomaly in the scene? Mason's voice is calm, but his eyes don't blink. Cross meets his gaze, iron to iron. A weather crack. No breach. Mason steps forward, slow and deliberate. He's a head shorter, but no less imposing. You're not a liar, Sergeant. Don't start now. Cross doesn't flinch. The integrity of the tomb remains. It's not a lie, but it isn't the truth either, and they both feel the words stagger in the air. Dismissed, Mason growls, but the dismissal is not an ending. It's a warning. As Cross exits, he's intercepted by someone who doesn't belong in marble halls. A woman in civilian clothes, khakis, and an Air Force bomber jacket faded with time. Dr. Margaret Cole, 63, civilian historian, government clearance. She's been researching the tomb for 30 years. Quiet, feared, respected, dangerous. They always find it in autumn, she says softly, not asking permission to speak. Cross doesn't stop walking. Find what? The note, or one like it. His boots slow. That's enough to let her know she has a sliver of interest to work with. I told them, she continues, back when I was still on payroll, the marble wasn't poured in one piece. There are seams, a place for memory to slip through. Cross finally turns. You're saying someone left it there, on purpose? Dr. Cole folds her arms. I'm saying the unknowns don't sleep as quietly as we pretend. They stand in silence beneath the arch while footsteps echo far away. Distant boots. Cole reaches into her jacket and pulls out a single worn photograph, black and white, the edges curled. It shows a young soldier, blurry, smiling in a way that feels forced. Scrawled on the back is a number, not a name, a number. This man disappeared in France, 1918, she says. Last known unit lost during the Meuse-Argonne offensive. His records were sealed after the tomb was dedicated. I believe he's in there. Cross's stomach twists. Then he's not unknown. He is to the world, she answers, but not to the truth, and not to his family. He stares down at the photograph. The weight in his chest now has a face. Why tell me? Cole's voice drops to a whisper. Because someone's already trying to bury it again. In that moment, Private Miller steps around the corner. He sees Cross, the woman, the photo. His mouth opens, but he says nothing. The reverence in his eyes is still there, but now it's cracked. The radio in Cross's ear chirps. Change of guard in 60. He straightens, folds the photo, and hands it back. Outside, the crowd leans forward again. The flags ripple like tension. The rope trembles in the wind catching velvet rope. Cross steps onto the black mat. He draws in a breath that tastes of cold marble and old secrets and lets the rifle snap to his shoulder. Rifle snapping. The bayonet shines. Colonel Mason watches from the crowd. His hands are behind his back. His eyes are locked on Cross. And now so are everyone else's. And the paper in his pocket, it doesn't just burn anymore. It accuses. Because silence guards the tomb. But sometimes silence buries the truth, and someone has decided that's not good enough anymore. The wind has teeth tonight. It runs through the white rose like a spirit with no name, pulling at flags until they snap against the sky like they're trying to speak, flags snapping harder. The floodlights burn the plaza into harsh gold, and the tomb reflects it like truth uncovered, unyielding, unforgiving. Staff Sergeant Daniel Cross walks the mat with the weight of history on his back, and betrayal blooming under his ribs, boots striking stone. The note is pressed to his chest, same pocket, same rhythm. But it doesn't feel like paper anymore. It feels like a voice, and it's getting louder. Across the rope, the crowd has thinned to a scatter of silhouettes. But one shape doesn't move with them. Private First Class Aaron Miller stands rigid at parade rest, his eyes never leaving Cross. Since yesterday, he said nothing, but something in his gaze has changed. It's sharper, not with judgment, but with questions. And questions, Cross knows, are how everything begins to fall apart. Inside the administration wing, beyond the arches, the lights buzz low and tired. Cross slips from the ritual into the quiet like a man shedding skin. Dr. Margaret Cole is waiting for him in the research alcove. Papers spread, photographs arranged in sequence, like a puzzle no one wants to solve. She's shaking, but not from fear. "Another one was found," she whispers. "Where?" "In the base, behind the inspection panel, not visible unless you remove the ceremonial bolts." She hands him a second note, drier, nearly crumbling. Fewer words this time, but they carry the same charge. They name me wrong. Cross doesn't speak. His jaw moves once. The room smells like dust and old ink, and something colder. Accountability. "They'll call it desecration," he says finally. "It's history," she counters. "You're playing with a fire you can't hold." "I'm holding it," she says, "but you're the one they'll burn." Across the hall, the door creaks. Door creaking. Aaron steps in, eyes darting. Between them, then fixing on the parchment in Cross's hand. "I heard voices," he says quietly. "Didn't mean to interrupt." "You didn't," Cross replies, "but it's a lie." Everything is interrupted now. Aaron approaches, slow, respectful, but with the nerves of a man approaching something sacred. He's not looking at the historian. He's looking at the note. His voice trembles as he asks, "Is it true?" Cross stares at him, silent. "Sir," Aaron presses, "if someone in there has a name, shouldn't we know it?" Dr. Cole nods once. Cross doesn't. "You're a soldier," Cross says, voice low. "You stand where no one else dares. You give yourself to silence so others can sleep. You don't ask what lies beneath." Aaron steps closer, fire building behind his youth. "Then what do we guard, sir? A lie?" The silence cuts like marble. Long pause, distant thunder. Outside, the storm begins its slow crawl from the hills. Lightning flares in the distance, framing the rows of headstones and flashes of memory. Thunder rolling in. Dr. Cole sighs. "He's asking the same question you did, Sergeant. Just sooner." Miller steps back, ashamed but not broken. "I'm sorry, I need to believe what we're guarding is honest." Cross looks at him, not as a recruit, not as a subordinate, but as a mirror. Later, as the storm builds, Cross returns to the tomb. Alone. The wind howls now, wind screaming past arches. The rope slaps against its hooks, velvet rope snapping. Rain starts to spit from the black above. He walks the mat anyway. He needs the rhythm. Boots pounding stone. He needs to remember who he was before the paper. At the 21st step, he stops. Across the plaza, a figure emerges. Colonel Mason. Cap pulled low, coat flaring behind him. "You're off shift," Mason calls out. "The watch doesn't sleep," Cross replies. Mason approaches, stopping just outside the boundary line. "I know about the notes," he says. No hesitation. Cross doesn't answer. "I also know what happens if they get out. You think this country understands myth? You think they'll preserve it once they believe the unknown isn't unknown?" Cross finally turns to face him. "Maybe they deserve the truth." "They deserve peace," Mason snaps. "Not doubt." He steps forward, voice growing colder. "This tomb isn't about one man. It's about all of them. If we break that illusion, if we shatter the silence, every name we never found becomes another ghost we failed." Cross's hand tightens on his rifle. "And if there's one man in there who was known, whose name was taken for this symbol, what do we owe him?" Mason walks the rope line slowly, lightning strobing around them. Lightning crack. He stops just short of stepping over. "We owe him what he gave us. The quiet." For a moment, neither man moves. The sky rumbles like a warning. Thunder rolling close. Then Mason says, "I won't order you to destroy the note, but I'll bury it myself if I have to." He walks away. Rain starts in earnest. The stone glistens under it. Cross remains, rifle against his shoulder, water running down his face like memory. Behind him, on the sarcophagus, the inscription glows under lightning. Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. Cross whispers, not a prayer, not a protest, but a fracture in the armor. What if God isn't the only one who knows anymore? The thunder answers, and far away a camera flash goes off. Someone is watching, and they are not part of the silence. Rain lashes Arlington like a warning. The black sky presses down hard, and wind claws through the cemetery like something searching, wind howling through marble arches. Floodlights flicker, water sheets off the white stone, racing down the inscription on the tomb as if the words themselves were weeping. Inside the guard quarters, Staff Sergeant Daniel Cross lays the two notes flat under a plastic sleeve. One reads, "I am not unknown." The other, "They named me wrong." The parchment edges curl like burned leaves, trembling in the artificial light. Across the table, Dr. Margaret Cole closes her eyes. "They'll never let it out," she says softly. "Not while the tomb still stands untouched. To them, this is a monument, sacred because of its silence." "It is sacred," Cross replies, voice taut. "But silence isn't the same as truth." The door bursts open. Door slams. Colonel Mason storms in, soaked to the collar, water dripping from his cap. He's not hiding anymore. "I gave you the benefit of loyalty, Sergeant," he growls. "You returned it with betrayal." "No," Cross says. "I returned it with questions. You broke protocol. You shared materials with a civilian. And now this?" Mason slaps a printout onto the table. An image caught in grainy black and white. Cross in silhouette, holding one of the notes framed by lightning. "A tourist caught this last night. It's already circulating. You've got reporters circling like buzzards." Lisa Grant, the reporter, stands behind Mason, lips pressed into a thin line. She looks at Cross, not with judgment, but urgency. "I'm not here to shame anyone," she says. "I'm here because this could change everything we think we know about the tomb." Mason turns on her. "You don't understand what this place is. You think it's a headline. It's a wound we never let close so the country remembers. It's not a mystery to solve." "No," Cross says. "It's a sacrifice. And if we buried one man's name for the sake of a symbol, then we owe him more than silence." Mason glares. "This isn't about one man. Then what are we doing here?" The thunder outside punctuates the words. Thunder cracking. Cross steps around the table and opens the metal drawer beneath. From it, he removes the inspection torch, and beneath it, a folded cloth bundle. He unwraps. It's a ceremonial lighter, issued only in events when documents are to be destroyed per standing orders. "I can burn them now," he says. "End it. Keep the peace." Everyone goes quiet. "But if I do," he continues, "I'll carry the truth like a ghost." His hand hovers over the flame. No cameras, no press, no witnesses. Then a voice cuts through the tension. "Don't." Private Aaron Miller steps forward from the hallway, soaked, breathless. He's been listening. This isn't about breaking a code. It's about honoring the fallen. All of them. Even the one they tried to erase. Mason's jaw tightens. "If we let this go public," Mason says, "the backlash will tear apart the very trust this nation has in its heroes." Lisa Grant takes out her recorder. "Then let the public decide. Isn't that what we fight for?" Cross looks down at the flame, flickering soft and gold. The note is in his hands again. 3 words. "I am not unknown." He doesn't move. The fire reflects in his eyes. Then he pulls the notes away from the flame and snuffs the lighter. Click. "No!" Everyone exhales. "I'll deliver them myself," Cross says. "To the Department of the Army, to the historians. Proper chain. No leaks. But they won't be burned." Mason turns his back, staring out into the storm. "I hope you know what you've done." "I do," Cross replies. "I just finally understand why I've been standing on that mat all these years." The legendary moment comes minutes later. The storm breaks. The rain stops suddenly like the sky ran out of breath. Rain halting. A single shaft of moonlight cuts through the clouds and falls across the plaza. And there, under the brilliance, stands Cross. Alone. Rifle at his side. Uniform soaked. Notes pressed against his chest beneath the wool. Behind him, the white sarcophagus of the unknown glows under the moon. and the words carved into it seem to echo now with a second meaning, known but to God. Cross closes his eyes and steps onto the mat, boots striking wet stone. He begins to march. 21 steps, but this time every pace is a reckoning, a tribute, and a protest. And from the far edge of the crowd, a voice, childlike clear, calls out, "What's his name?" No one answers. Not yet. But the silence breaks anyway. Because now, there's a name hiding in the quiet. The room is quiet, but not empty. Cross sits in his dress blues, posture flawless, boots shine to mirror the ceiling light. On the table before him rests a plain manila folder. Inside it are two slips of parchment, preserved now in archival sleeves, in a single photograph that has seen too much sun and too little truth. Across from him, behind a wide desk framed by flags, is the Secretary of the Army, a man of stature, of protocol, and, today, one who speaks less than he listens. "Staff Sergeant," he says finally, "do you understand what this is?" "Yes, sir." "If this is real and not some elaborate hoax, it changes the symbolic foundation of the tomb." Cross doesn't blink. "Sir, the tomb still stands. The unknown still rests. Nothing changes about the sacrifice. But the idea of anonymity, if one of them can be named, it means he was one of us," Cross says. "That he had people, a home, that the sacrifice wasn't faceless. It was personal. That doesn't weaken the symbol, sir. It strengthens it." The secretary looks down at the notes. He runs a thumb over the edge of the folder as if weighing history in his fingers. "We'll need to verify. DNA, comparative handwriting, letters home, unit rosters. I've already submitted a chain of custody report," Cross says. "The historian, Dr. Cole, has additional documents, and there's a living relative, we believe, a grandniece." The secretary raises an eyebrow. "She knows." "She suspects. The family's been searching since 1918. A missing soldier. Never declared dead. Only unaccounted for." Silence settles. Not heavy, just final. "Then we move forward," the secretary says. "Carefully." Cross nods. Respectfully. Outside, the wind shifts. Leaves scrape across the marble. Leaves tumbling across stone. A soft tap of boots echoes in the archway. Boots approaching. Cross rises. He steps out into the chill of late afternoon. The sun is descending, setting fire to the edges of the white headstones. Golden light flaring across marble. In the center of the plaza, the mat waits. Black, precise, sacred. Across it, Private First Class Aaron Miller waits in position, his young hands clenching and releasing around the ceremonial rifle. His jaws locked. His eyes never leave the tomb. "You ready?" Cross asks. "I've been ready since you told me the truth, Sergeant." Cross smiles almost. "Then hold it," he says. "Not just the rifle, the meaning." Aaron nods. "Yes, Sergeant." They exchange the watch with full honors. Rifle snapping, boots in sync. The relief is silent, exact. Miller takes the mat. Cross steps away, but just before the arch swallows him, he turns back. "You're not guarding mystery," he says. "You're guarding memory." And with that, he's gone. Later that evening, in a modest suburban house in Pennsylvania, an elderly woman opens her mailbox. Inside, among the bills and catalogs, is a small envelope stamped with a federal seal. She opens it slowly, with trembling fingers. Inside is a letter. It's short, and it begins with, "We believe we've found your great-uncle." A photograph slips out behind it, restored, clear. The same image Dr. Cole had shown Cross. The same eyes, the same half-smile. The woman sinks into a chair and begins to cry. Quiet sobs, distant wind chime. She doesn't call anyone. She just sits with the letter, and for the first time in her life, she says his name aloud. At Arlington, the ceremony continues. The flags snap high, flags cracking. The velvet rope stands firm. The cadence does not falter, but word has begun to spread. Lisa Grant's article is published 3 days later. It is not sensational. It is sacred. It does not reveal the name, the photo, or the notes. It simply tells the story of a soldier once buried in silence, and the guard who chose to listen. The country doesn't riot, it bows. In comments, in phone calls, in thousands of letters written to Arlington. One reads, "I never knew my grandfather, but maybe he knew him. Thank you for honoring that." Another, "We teach our children that heroes wear capes. We forget that sometimes they just wear boots, and they walk in the rain." Colonel Mason stands outside the tomb the following week. He's alone. The rain is gone. The wind is gentle. The marble warm under sunlight. He looks to the inscription. "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God, and now perhaps to one family." He nods once, just once, then turns and walks away. Inside the guard quarters, Cross opens his locker. Inside, folded in the back, is the copy of the first note. He doesn't touch it. He doesn't need to anymore. Instead, he opens a notebook and begins writing. A record, a name, a memory. Not for headlines, but for history. The legendary moment comes just as the sun kisses the horizon. Aaron Miller takes his 21st step. He halts, turns, and at the edge of the plaza, hundreds have gathered, quiet, respectful, holding candles, not protesting, not demanding, just present. Cross stands among them. Lisa Grant, Dr. Cole, the secretary, even Mason. Veterans, civilians, children. The light washes over them like grace, wind rustling, candles flickering. Miller calls out the guard command. Silence answers. Then from the far left, a voice calls, not mocking, not demanding, just reverent. "What's his name?" Miller looks up just for a second, then answers, "We may know, but we remember all." And the rifle snaps. Rifle snapping sharply. The cadence resumes. Boots clicking steady, and the crowd doesn't cheer. It stands, together, because one name may have been found, but every step still belongs to the unknown. If this story moved you, let it move others. Share it, not for views, but for memory, for the names we know and the ones we never will. Subscribe for more stories that honor sacrifice, silence, and the vows that echo beyond time. And leave a comment below, because even a single word written in respect becomes part of the Guard's watch. Some truths are whispered in silence. Let yours be heard.